Hello everybody, this is Vishal. Welcome back to the channel. So in this video guys, I'm going to show you how I recorded a Sarangi and a Tabla, completely Bollywood style, and I did it using just a single microphone, right? Just the Rode M3. So without any further ado, let me show you the track that we were able to record with this, okay? Okay, so this track feels like it has more of a Coke Studio vibe going on. Okay, so the people who played Sarangi and Tabla on this track, they have been playing in Bollywood like from a really long time, and they were just absolutely amazing to work with, right? They knew how to record things to a click track. Everything was spot on, everything is right on time, and you can probably see on the screen that these are all single takes. Like there is no punch in, there is no overdubs. Everything is just absolutely mind-bogglingly perfect. Okay, so first thing that we are going to do is मैं इस button को use करके keep your eyes on the cursor as always. Okay, here's the cursor. Okay, so I'll use this button and I'll turn everything off and then I'll turn everything on just to show you guys the exact difference that we are making to the final track. Okay guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the hook of the track. ठीक है, सारे effects मैं off कर देता हूँ and then I'll turn on the effects. So keep your eyes on the cursor. You will be able to hear a clear difference when the effects are on and off. Okay, so we will start with the off. Right, there's a huge difference. Like everything comes alive, everything sounds a lot more balanced. Especially the drums and especially the tabla, they come out of the track now, right? Before the sarangi was the lead instrument, and sarangi is still the lead instrument, but we want the tabla to be there because that is what this track demands. So tabla is playing really nice grooves, so we want to highlight that. So let me show you what I'm doing with the drums. And guys, if you haven't seen the previous video, I show exactly how I process things, especially for a demo, right? How you can make a demo sound absolutely amazing without doing a lot to them. You know, in just quick 5 to 10 minutes, you can take your demos from level 1 to level 2. So let me show you what I'm doing in the drums. Everything off. Everything on. Okay, there is EQ, boosting some highs, boosting some 5K, and boosting some 80 Hz just to get the kick drum to punch a little more. Okay, no filtering going on, absolutely no cutting of any sort. So coming to the compressor guys, let me show you one thing. So how I use the release knob to actually time the snare sustain to the track. We didn't really want the snare to be, very sustainy. We don't want it to ring out really loud because tabla is actually supposed to be the main element in the percussion department here. Okay, keep your eyes on the release knob. I'm going to completely choke the drums and I'm going to completely make them open again. You see how we can absolutely control the snare sustain. And there you go, your classic rock 70s sound. Right, so this is just a small example of how you can use compressor in order to shape things, right? It is not just a gain reduction tool, just a dynamic range reduction tool. You can do a lot of things with the compressor. Okay, and the complete course is coming on the compressor. I'm going to make a series of videos explaining in detail how I go about using a compressor and how you can hear compression on your tracks, right? Okay, so you can subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss the videos. Okay, so moving on. We have some saturation going on just using the good old decapitator on drums. Let me show you what this is doing. Off, on. Just trying to control the transients of the snare and the kick, and since this is just a demo, मैंने drums को बिल्कुल भी individual tracks पे भेजा हुआ नहीं है because this is just a demo and I'm just going to send it out as it is. They only needed the MIDI file, so no processing is done on the individual elements. And then a simple trick that you can take away from this video is I wanted the drums to sound like they were in the same room, right, as the Sarangi and the Tabla. So we are using the exactly same reverb on all 3 tracks, okay, all 4 tracks rather. Okay, and you might be wondering one thing, that why are you using 4 different reverbs on 4 different tracks and not sending everything to a single burst effect? The reason for that is I wanted to use different lengths of reverb, right? And I wanted to use different pre-delays. That is the only reason why I'm doing this. And the reason for doing that we will discuss in a future video. Otherwise this video is going to get too long. Okay, so let me show you the reverb settings. Just a 0.6 second reverb, 13% mix, okay, 20 milliseconds of pre-delay. Without reverb, with reverb. You might be able to notice this sends the drum a little bit backwards, and that is what I wanted in this track to be, because tabla is supposed to be the main percussive element here. Okay, moving on, tabla. This is going to be really interesting. Take a look at this Pro EQ, right? I'm going to turn this on and off and listen to the tabla. You will not believe the difference this makes. On, off. Hear that ringing frequencies? On. Just a huge difference. And let me show you what I'm exactly doing in this. So essentially we are just notching 3 different frequencies, right? There's like 964, 662, 1.3K. I'm going to turn these frequencies on and off one by one so you can actually hear what I'm doing in this. Ringing, very ringy tabla. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this is super annoying to me. And once I remove these, the tabla just comes alive to me. According to my taste, the tabla just sounds a lot more professional, a lot more smooth, right? The tabla sounds a lot more open. Off and on. And this is really all we are doing with this EQ. Then I also have the SSL channel. So on tabla, I'm boosting some 10K, around 6 dBs. I'm boosting some 160 Hertz, around 8 dBs, okay? The reason for that is I wanted the left-hand side tabla to have a lot more bass because I was using a single mic, remember? And when we were recording this, purposefully, I positioned the mic in such a way that I was able to get a very balanced sound out of the tabla, right? Because remember, we are only using a single mic. So we have to use some recording techniques to get a good result. And then I'm just taking away some 300 Hertz, just like 1.5 dBs only, so not a lot. Let me show you on and off, EQ off. Right? You can listen to the left-hand side tabla, sounds a lot more deep, and tabla has a lot of high end now. Okay, so now let's discuss what I'm doing with the compressor on tabla. Again, I'm using the compressor to make the tabla sound exactly what the artist wanted it to sound like. Okay, that is what our job is. Okay, again, keep your eyes on the release knob and forget about the gain reduction, the ratios and everything. Just keep your eyes on the release knob and let me show you a really cool thing, how you can control the sustain of the tabla, how you can completely change the groove of the tabla. Okay, let's do this. Right, sounds a lot more tighter. We can open this up. And there you go. Such a huge difference, especially in this part. And I'm able to choke the tabla out. I can very easily control the sustain of the tabla. And again, we are only doing like -5 dBs of gain reduction only. And then we have some saturation. And then we have a reverb. Let's take a look at the reverb. So just 10% reverb and 1.28. So it's a bit longer than the drums, simply because I liked how it sounded on the tabla. Okay, so let's move on to the sarangi. Sarangi is the main instrument in this track. Let me show you the hook. Everything off. everything on. So essentially what I'm doing is I wanted the Sarangi to sound a bit more nasally, right? A bit more throaty. I wanted it to have a bit more vocal-like quality. So I boosted a little bit of high end and I boosted just a little bit of the low mids in the Sarangi just to make it sound a bit more throaty, right? And we are boosting the 5K, 4.6 dBs, and we are boosting 600 Hertz, just 1 dB, simply because I wanted the Sarangi to sound a bit more nasally, a bit more throaty, a bit more, you can say, on the warm side, okay? And taking away 1 dB of 200 Hertz, and nothing else is going on, just a low cut filter, removing everything below 140 Hertz because we really don't need that in a Sarangi. Coming to the R comps, one of my favorite compressors. So I'm basically treating the Sarangi like a violin. That is how I would compress a violin or a vocal track for that matter. So I'm essentially using the compressor to tame out the very loud transient parts, nothing more. Off. On. Right? Just taming the transients using the decapitator for saturation and the reverb. So Sarangi also has exactly the same reverb as the Tabla do, 1.28 seconds, 10% mix and 0 pre-delay on the Sarangi. Okay, so let me show you the Tanpura. This is just a simple Tanpura loop that the artist gave me. They already had this, so I simply imported it in my session and we are using the Tanpura from there. Nothing is happening on the Tanpura, it's just a simple reverb, nothing else, okay? Okay, moving on to the master track. So some of you guys might be knowing that I always do top-down mixing. So before I do any of the individual processing on the tracks, I am putting in a compressor and an EQ and some tape saturation onto my master bus, right? I like to mix into these plugins, okay? And this is also called top-down mixing. And I will make a separate video about this in the coming weeks, right? Because this is a very interesting concept and it has really completely changed how I approach mixing these days. Okay, let me show you the before and after of what's happening on the master bus. Let's go to the hook. You can very clearly hear the drums have gone in the back, right? The snare is not poking as much and the Sarangi has come in front. And this is simply happening because of the compressor that we are using. So let me show that to you guys. Okay, this is the compressor settings that I'm using. I always tweak the compressor no matter what preset I'm using, no matter what I'm doing with any plugins, and always make sure that you tweak it according to the song that you're working on. Okay, let me show you the before and after. Try to focus on the snare drum, try to focus on the drums and the tabla. How the tabla and Sarangi is going to come in front and the drums are going to go in back. Keep your eyes on the cursor, guys. Right, with the compressor, you can very clearly hear the Sarangi comes in front. It's just like magic. Compressor can do so many things. It's crazy. Okay, and I'm using a Pultec style EQ here, boosting a lot of high end, boosting 8K, almost 6 points, boosting 100 Hertz, 4 points, right? Like 4 units, 6 units, whatever you want to call it. And I really like using 5, 6, 7-ish bandwidth on the Pultec style EQs. Absolutely love how they sound. Okay. And using the saturation, the tape saturation here on the master track. There's also a limiter, but it's doing nothing. It's just out of habit. Limiter मैं usually एक लगा देता हूँ so that, you know, it's just a safeguard. Nothing is going to clip. And that's really it, guys. That's how I mix this demo track. Quick before and after. Completely off. On. Off. On. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you learned something from the video. If you did, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care.